All right. Well, welcome to episode 50. This episode's for you. Hey, Greg, are you ready for episode 50?
I was born ready for episode 50, which is weird. You made 1 through 49 that much harder to get through.
So we polled you guys. We asked. Sorry, Greg. We asked you guys what you wanted to hear. We kind of gathered some of the stories that we saw at the top of the comment section quite a few times. We pulled together some of our favorite moments, and I don't know. I think this is it's gonna be fun to kind of revisit some of these listener stories and revisit just some of these moments in general. And I don't know, man. I like the idea of this show because, you know, we're like slowing down for a second. We have 10 more episodes to go in this season. We're slowing down for a second to just thank you guys again, bring you some of your favorite moments. And honestly, and I think Greg can attest to this, when people were throwing out moments to us, you know, we do this every week, and sometimes we'll do multiples in a week, and we forget. You know, there are moments where we're like, oh yeah, like I totally forgot that happened.
That.
Right, because we didn't, you know. So I don't know.
Offhanded comment that somebody liked somewhere down the road, and it found its way into the regular.
Yeah,
regular conversation
is just special to us, you know, because it showed us that, you know, there really are people out there listening. There are people that have favorite moments from the show. Greg and I are still kind of trying to wrap our heads around the fact that there are people out there that want to listen to us do this. So the appreciation runs deep, but we're still weirded out by you guys.
Family don't. So.
No, it's been, we've said this, you know, we've had a few shows where we kind of just got real and spoke a little bit to the crowd, but I think that's important because, you know, I think a lot could be lost when we're just putting together stories and we're just getting the information out there. And I know that's what a lot of people come for, but for us, it's, you know, it's something different. I feel like it's something a little bit bigger than we are right now. And it's just growing and getting new. And I'm excited for the challenges ahead, and I'm excited for the growth and just everything that the podcast has brought. So thank you guys so much. You guys have you've actually lit a fire under Greg and my ass for the first time in our career together. So
except for that time that I fell asleep in that garden chair at the beach and they wrapped me in toilet paper and
told
put some
you
coals
not
underneath
to
my chair, and it actually literally set my ass on fire.
All right, so what we did was we got some of our favorite stories, some of our favorite moments, and we want to start off with some of the. We're going to start off with the meat of it. I feel like, right? We're getting to some stories here. We have 4 in total, and we're going to start off in episode 3 with Joseph, JX, ZX, PH.
It's like Joseph,
but cooler. He came in and he brought out the Solder children story, and it was one that I had heard before, but I had never heard any of the details for. So, hey, Joseph, some people liked your story.
You can tell them how much you like it on Instagram at JXZXPH.
It's like Joseph,
but cooler.
Yeah. So everybody, please do enjoy.
Episode 50, bitches.
Oh.
Start right now?
Oh yeah, this is you.
All right, so my story is the missing Solder children, the 5.
5 of them.
5, yeah. Well, they have 9 children. Just let me read this, and you'll find out later.
Okay, so they're doing all right. They're not completely out of kids.
In the year 1945, in Fayetteville, West Virginia, George and Janine Solder, along with 9 of their children, were asleep when a fire started in their house. George, Janine, and 4 of their children made it out. Those 4 were Sylvia, George Jr., Marion, and John. And they all slept on the downstairs, so that's why they got out easily.
Downstairs kids out of there.
Yeah.
And George Jr. would get out. Make sure you get out the one named after you.
Right. It's my pride and joy.
I gotta get him out. All right. Once George realized his 5 other children, who were Betty, Janine, Luis, Martha, and Maurice, were still inside, he ran upstairs to see if he can get them, and he found out that the stairs were in fact on fire. I know.
That's definitely not a good staircase to get up. Yeah.
So once he realized that the stairs were on fire, he ran to his tool shed to get his ladder, but it wasn't in its spot that it normally is, and he didn't really look for it, so he ran to his trucks. His plan was to drive next to a window, hop in, but the trucks weren't starting. So he was like, all right, something obviously is going wrong. And one of his daughters, Marion, ran to the neighbor's house, and then they tried to call the fire department, but the operator was not connecting them to anybody.
Sabotage.
Fishy stuff. Another neighbor, she tried to call, and the same thing happened, but she decided to grow a pair and drive into town, and she found the fire chief, F.J. Morris, and it took the fire department 7 hours to show up to the house. Yeah.
This is in the 40s, you said, right? 1940s? Yeah. This is not like 1810
what year?
Or something.
What year?
1940...
45.
Okay. Can I throw a hypothesis before this goes too much further?
For
yeah,
sure.
But there's infrastructure then. 1945 is not ancient time.
But
I know.
I do have to throw a couple more things in. But you can do your hypothesis if you want right now.
My hypothesis, this is all a government thing stemming from the beginnings of Project Monarch. They were seeing how badly they could fuck up a person's life. And so they started with this family. Go ahead.
They just, like, the first time anyone ever played Michael Douglas's The Game was with this guy right here.
All right. Now, more some knowledge. It was, in fact, Christmas Eve that this happened. So
Fuck.
That could be a reason why the fire department took 7 hours. But, also fun fact, the fire department is only 2.5 hours away from their house, and it took them 7 hours to show up.
Jesus Christ.
And once
Why
they
is the
actually
fire
got to the
department
house...
2.5 hours away?
Are they pretty... Is this a pretty rural place? Are they, like, out in the country?
It's country.
Yeah. Fuck.
Like, it took the daughter 15 minutes to get to the neighbor's house. So, it was very spread out. But only 2.5 miles, not hours. Why did I say hours?
2.5 miles?
2.5 miles from the house. Like, legit not that far.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I totally had a brain fart.
Like, you could have done somersaults from the
Yes.
fire department and got there in like an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it was Christmas Eve. The fire chief's at home, you know. It's still gonna be on fire in the morning. We'll get there.
Yeah, it's like a sort of like Jean-Benet Ramsey's case because it happened on Christmas. Like
everything was all...
the like cops who were working on Christmas were there and they kind of fucked a lot of things up.
Government was involved in that one too.
God damn it.
All right. Once the fire department actually showed up to the house, it was already ash and rubble. And so they just kind of went through. They were like, all right, well, I guess we have to find human remains. So they're just digging through all the ash, and then they couldn't find anything. There was no proof that they actually died in the fire. So F.J. Morris, being the good guy that he is, he's like, they probably cremated their whole bodies. Yeah. So then, a week later, death certificates for all 5 children. And the wife right away didn't believe that they could have been cremated, and she went out of her way to check in. She talked to, like, cremation places. She's like, yo, how easy is it for bones to burn? And then he goes, for about 2 hours, 5,000 Fahrenheit, it's gonna take.
Right, and I've seen videos, like, where, like, they cremate, and once they're done, the bones are still like a small pile, and they take them and like pound them down into the powder. Yeah. Like there's still something left after they fucking cremate. Sorry.
Yeah. The wife was definitely more skeptical about the fire, like right away, because she's like, we still have appliances in this ash. Don't you think if this fire was bad enough to where it completely cremates bones, we wouldn't have a phone laying on the floor?
Right.
Well, FJ was like, yeah, no, they probably got cremated. And then it was written down that they had a jury and everything, and everyone was like, yes, they probably got cremated. Done. And a week after the fire, along with the death certificates, we get written like documentation that the cause of the fire was faulty wiring. And the wife was like, I don't know about I don't know about faulty wiring. Because she remembers the night of the fire waking up to a phone call, and it was about an hour before the fire. She woke up to a phone call, and then she just hung up the phone. I don't know. It wasn't important. She went home, or she went back to sleep, and she noticed that the lights were on, and then she's like, should I turn those off? Nah, and then she went to sleep. They woke up to the smell of smoke, And as she runs out, she remembers the lights still being on as there's smoke and fire in the house. So if there was actually faulty wiring, don't you think the lights wouldn't be on?
I do think that.
And George, more knowledge on the faulty wiring. 2 months before the fire, he had the electricians come and check the wiring, and they gave it the A-OK. And so they totally debunked the whole faulty wiring. They're like, no, that was not it. And so then they were like, well, maybe the fire was intentional. So they thought that their children were actually kidnapped as opposed to being a faulty wiring fire. And people believe that because one, George he's Italian, and he lived in Italy for a while, and he just moved. There's more to it. It's 1940.
Already guilty.
1945. Italy wasn't the best place to be. Mussolini, all that fun stuff. George came to Fayetteville from Italy, and he never said why, so it's all up to whoever's interpreting it. And Fayetteville has a big Italian community, and George was super vocal about everything, and he always talked about his disdain from Mussolini, and that definitely started heated debates with the Italian community. So everyone's like, well, maybe he left Italy, he's fishy, his kids were kidnapped, definitely.
Right.
Some inside job. So George and Janine were all around town. They had a poster, stand built saying all this facts, how it's not faulty wiring, our kids were kidnapped, but they never talked upon, what he left Italy from. So even the people were like, I don't know.
So even the people who may have believed their kids were kidnapped, they were like, yeah, but your fucking husband's sketchy, so no one
so
gives a
they're
shit.
like, no.
Yeah, that's tough.
And there's reports that people, once that got big, people were calling in saying, hey, I think I saw your kids at a coffee shop, at anything. And that George ran with everything, as if it was 100% true. He went, he checked it.
Oh, the Greg method.
So far, none of those leads
I'm gonna let that slide
led anywhere. So everyone's kind of like, well, let's just let this die out. They're dead. We already have the death certificates. There's a memorial where a house used to be. Everyone was like, we're calling it that. They're dead. My bad. So one day, 23 years after the fire, one little picture addressed to Jenny from Kentucky. It was a man in his late 20s. And on the back of the picture, it had handwriting that said, Luis Sauter, I love brother Frankie, little boys. A90132 or 35, and end quote. That doesn't make any sense, but Luis Sauter, that's one of their children. And if you look at the photo, you can match up the nose bridge, the left eyebrow raise, and eye color and hair color. So it's believed to be their son Luis, who was 9 during the fire. So he would have been in his late 20s. So that's linking up them that, hey, maybe they're actually not.
And some fucking secret code.
I don't even know. No one, cared about the code, and that's my biggest thing. I'm like, A90132. They're at some, camp, straight up flying pigeon dropped that off, but no one cares. No one at all. This part this one is actually
I'm curious
really mad.
I'm curious to know what you think, Greg, about the code.
Do you really want to know what I think?
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Do you really, really want to know what I think?
Yeah, I think you've got a theory for it already.
So my first theory is that no, I'm just kidding.
The government.
Honestly, I think that they were kidnapped. They were kidnapped by the government. They were sold off into child prostitution rings and sex slavery like kids who are kidnapped by the government do. And they were used for various experiments, a la Stranger Things, I guess, is the most popular example out there right now. And eventually they grew up, but he was trying to leave a message behind for the person who was supposed to find it. The person who was supposed to get that code got the code, and that's why nobody made a thing of it. And
honestly, I agree with that, because the I love brother Frankie and little boys part seems like some type of something you would say, like, knock on the door, what's the secret code to the orgy? You know what I mean? Like something along those lines.
That's a weird password for an orgy.
Yeah, but it would
Love
need to
Brother
be
Frankie
though, right?
and little boys. Man, you're at the wrong orgy.
That's right next door, though, brother. I'll hook you up.
But also, if it was some type of code, why would it say his name? Like,
Yeah.
Louis.
Because it wasn't. It was.
Maybe it was like his profile. Greg said, like he had already been sold in, and like that's his profile. Like that was his name, and all the other stuff is code that only the guy who would be buying him would know.
Yeah, only
Also-
the person who was supposed. There was only one person who was supposed to understand that code, and that person got it.
All right, what else?
Well,
Also,
it was addressed to Jenny, not the family. It was like there was no return address. The post was from Kentucky, and it was for Jenny Sauter. So I don't know how like a secret code or why a secret code would go to her, and if it was a secret code meant for her, why would she like just let it be normal knowledge that I found easily?
No, it wasn't.
So
It wasn't meant for her.
then why was it addressed to her?
The picture was meant for her, but the stuff on the back, it was somebody grabbed the picture and gave this picture to her. The picture was not originally intended for her.
Okay, that.
other angles. Greg's got you. Greg has got you.
All right, so secret code, lots of CIA stuff. But anyways, what the family did about this is they hired a private detective, a private detective to go to Kentucky and look into what went down. But here's the thing. Literally nothing ever about this private detective.
Just go with detector. I like it.
Detector. Like, nothing left about the detector. Like, there's not anything from when he got that, okay, I'm going to go to Kentucky. He went to Kentucky, and then he just fell off the face of the earth. No one cares either.
He got suicided.
I searched the internet. No one, like, says anything about this guy. That bothers me. I like the guy.
That's what happens when you fuck with the government.
That's right. Don't go trying to
disappear.
fucking.
The Italian mob government.
Oof.
No, the mob's not that good. Bodies always wash up. Like, Italians aren't that good at stuff, you know? But
Perfect. Well, can we clear up that Greg's Italian before we get too far into this?
All right. Well, no one gives a shit about the private investigator detective. Oh, that's why I kept saying detector. Investigator. I kept wanting to say investigator. I wrote investigator. All right. So no one cares about this guy. And that's the end of it. Shortly after, George passed away at the age of 64, and then about 10 years later, his wife passed away at the age 85. Still, they both believe that their children were kidnapped. And Sylvia, who was 2 during the fire, is the last Sauter child alive, and she still is thinking that her siblings did not die, and that it was not a fire, and they could still be out there. She has 2 children, one named Jenny, the other one no one cares about, Bobby.
Fuck Bobby.
Her daughter is quoted to say, "My mother
Bobby
promised
Sada.
my grandmother." Hey, quote. "My mother promised my grandmother she would never let the story die, so that's what me and my brother are doing." And today, after all these years, they're still accepting any type of insight, and that private investigator is still, no one cares about him, which kind of sucks. I mean, I feel like that's the focal point of this
I
story.
thought there was going to be some kind of closure for the private detector.
No, he just literally, like, no one ever cares, and that's what to take from here. Is all this is leading up to this private investigator who just falls off the face of the earth.
So really, it's not about the kids. You want to know about
It's
the private
the
investigator.
All right, that was Joseph's telling of the disappearance of the Sauter children. Who knows if they live today? We're going to keep it rolling right now. We're going to jump into probably the most favorite guest that we reached out and we asked who your favorite guest was months ago before we even thought of this episode. And you guys all told us, almost unanimously it felt like, Mama Shy. We got to hear more Mama Shy. We got to hear more Mama Shy. So, what we're going to do right now, thank you,
We're going to give the people what they want.
Yeah, we're going to give them what they want. So, thank you, Joseph, JXZXPH,
Kind of like Joseph.
but cooler. So, thank you for your story. But the fans want some Mama Shy.
So get out of the way, son.
So, let's travel to episode 13 when we were introduced to Mama Shy, and she told us the story of Scott and Lacey Peterson.
Hit him.
Okay, peeps. We're going to talk about Scott Peterson, or as I refer to him, the douchebag Scott Peterson.
Okay.
Okay.
You edited yourself a little from what you said off air, but that's fine.
Well, I said the motherfucking douchebag, but I'm a mom, so you know. Okay. So anyways, let's start. Lacey Rocha and Scott Peterson met at a cute little cafe, Pacifica Cafe, in 1995. They were later married in 1997. 2002, Scott and Lacey were living the life, expecting their first child, happily married. What else could they want? Beautiful home in Modesto, California.
Modesto, holler to the Central Valley.
Woo. So they were expecting the first baby in February. Christmas Eve.
Pisces forever.
I'm an Aquarius.
Oh, really? That's sad for you.
Aquarius. Where's the song about you?
I guess that is pretty cool.
Sorry.
I'm just a fish.
Back to me now, please.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Okay, you listen to my nervous laugh. If you hear this, no, I'm just kidding. Edit that. Okay, so anyways.
No.
The evening of Christmas Eve, Scott returns home from a fishing trip. Who goes fishing on Christmas Eve?
Scott Peterson.
Scott Peterson.
Duh.
Okay, so he gets home. His wife's not home, but the car's in the driveway. Eats some pizza, takes a shower, does some laundry.
Who orders
you know.
pizza on Christmas Eve?
It was cold pizza. He didn't order it.
a likely story.
Mm-hmm. So around 5:20, he calls Lacey's mom, Sharon. Says, "Hey, have you seen Lacey? I just got home and she's not here." She said, "No, I haven't seen or heard from her all day." And he said, "Well, when I left, she was curling her hair." Mom said, "Okay." So no one's heard. Mom calls around. No one's heard from Lacey all day. So Sharon gets worried, calls the police and says, "I'd like to report my daughter missing." A little too soon for that with the police. We all
24
know.
hours.
Yeah. So Lacey's mother calls friends, families, neighbors, everyone. Within hours, the next day they have 1,500 people searching for Lacey.
Lacey!
Lacey! The first initial search and vigil for Lacey didn't hold up anything. The news got involved. Pregnant woman missing Christmas Eve. So the police get involved. Search dogs, helicopters, the whole 9 yards. Before they know it, it's a full-on search, but no trace of Lacey. Police immediately, always look at the husband. Always.
Do you remember at this point, was the case super huge that she was missing?
It was big. I
Okay.
remember.
Before they found her, it was really
Yeah.
big?
Oh, yeah. I remember
Okay.
probably the night after she was missing when the news got really involved. Christmas Day, probably.
We live pretty close.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was really big that she was missing further. I'm sure once... sorry.
Yeah. It's.
Sorry, I was just curious.
I
wondered.
vividly remember it. I mean,
Okay.
even though it was, 15 years ago. But when the family, the police interviewed them, the car was in the driveway. Her purse was at the house. But her dog was wandering around Christmas Eve morning while Scott was fishing, and a neighbor found it and put him in the backyard. So the police look, like I was saying, they always look at the significant other. But Lacey's family was adamant. He's not guilty. He loves my daughter. He loves my sister. He would never do this. And by the emotions Scott had, the police sort of felt that, and the brother was really, he was the one batting 1,000 for Scott, saying, "No way. He loves her too much. He did not
So
do this."
her whole family is sold. Like, there's not a chance.
Yeah, no
It
way.
couldn't be
Scott
this
would
guy.
never. No, he loves her too much. He's devoted to her. So they set up a command center at a local hotel where friends and family and loved ones of Lacey could go and get flyers and blue and yellow ribbons to pass out and hang around town. Started a what's that thing called? A reward.
Oh,
Edit that. A reward was offered. Started at $25,000.
That's pretty
Then
big.
$250,000.
Whoa.
Then raised $500,000. All we want is Lacey and Connor back. That's what they were going to name their little boy. Scott was an active member at the command center and searching for Lacey. But from the start, he was reluctant to talk to the press. Did not want anything to do with them. He would pull up in his driveway, run in his house, not even give them.
Seems reasonable.
I don't know. Sometimes I think if you're innocent, you want to say something, or if you're guilty, you don't want to say anything. But
I feel like if I'm innocent and I'm definitely the prime suspect, I don't want to say anything.
But
it
at
could
this
be
point, he was
misconstrued.
not even a suspect
Okay.
because the family was still backing him and
Okay.
the police hadn't
I
talked
see.
to him. But like I said, he didn't like talking to the reporters, but he was doing a press conference with the family one day, and a reporter said, "Hey, Scott, are you considered a suspect?" Scott didn't like that, got out, stood up, left the press conference, just walked out. That, suspicion to me. Well, shortly after that, of course, the police are doing their work, and they soon discover pictures of Scott with another woman. They later revealed to the family that Scott has had numerous affairs, one that Lacey was even aware of.
That
Lacey's-
two-timing piece of shit.
No kidding, really. Lacey's family no longer support his innocence. Stop taking phone calls from the family. He will no longer talk to them. He's just cut them all off. One of the women Scott had an affair with was Amber Fry. She lived close to where we are.
Yeah.
They were in Modesto. We're here in Fresno. So she lived here in Fresno, California. She called the police when she discovered that Scott was a person of interest. Interest? Not entrance. That's the alcohol talking. A person of interest in Lacey's disappearance. She told the police that on December 9th, 13 days before Lacey went missing, that Scott had told her he was a widow and he was going to be spending the holidays alone.
Intrigue.
awkward.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the police say, "Hey, would you mind, letting us record you? Call him, see if you could get him to say anything." Of course, he doesn't say anything,
Right.
That's going to incriminate himself. A little too smart for that. But on a weird note, he was at a candlelight vigil for his wife and calls Amber, professes his love to her, and tells her, "I'm in Paris spending the holidays alone. Boo-hoo me. Not my wife is dead somewhere."
Sounds like a sociopath.
Yeah, big time.
Big time. So that's December. Months go by. Still no Lacey. Still no Connor. Nothing. On April 13th, 2003, a couple walking along the beach discovered a decomposing body of a male fetus. It was in the San Francisco Bay. One day later, a body washed up on shore 1 mile away from where that fetus was discovered. After DNA tests and the autopsy, they determined it was the bodies of Lacey Peterson and her unborn son, Connor. The judge had sealed the autopsy reports, but an anonymous, with my quotation fingers, an anonymous Associated Press revealed that they had found 1.5 loops of nylon tape was around Connor's neck, and he had a large cut on his body. Lacey's cause of death was not able to be determined because of the decomposition of her body.
Man, so they didn't even take cutting the fetus out for enough. They also strangled the fetus, it sounds like.
Keep on listening, Jesse.
Okay.
Oh my god.
This story gets...
Well, I'm glad I'm learning things about it. I thought I knew a lot about it.
See, it was so intriguing. I remember having to watch the news. It was, this was before...
I remember you having to watch.
Yeah,
I don't remember, like, it. but
what's
I
going
remember-
on, what's
yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
So, like I said, Lacey's body, was too decomposed, but they did release that she had been decapitated. Both forearms were missing. Her right foot was severed. Her left leg from the knee down was missing. Nylon tape was found around the outside of her clothing and on her lower torso. The medical examiner was able to determine she also had 3 broken ribs.
Dang. So,
Yeah.
man. That's right.
Yeah. Connor was not taken out of Lacey before death. That her body had decomposed and her upper torso had opened, and it emptied her internal organs. And when her internal organs, that just let for Connor to go out also. So he was not taken out pre-death or even after she was killed.
He just fell out.
Yeah, and they believe the tape that was found around Connor's neck was due to when he was,
Like in the water.
yeah, in the water. He was tangled up in the tape that was wrapped around Lacey also.
It's awfully coincidental.
Yeah, so that's how they believe that
Okay.
got around his neck. So 5 days later, April 18th, Scott was arrested. That son of a bitch is going down for the murder
Dun dun dun.
of Lacey Peterson and Connor. But they found him, and they believe he was trying to flee to Mexico. He was at a golf course. He said, "Oh, I'm waiting for my dad and brother. I'm playing golf." On his possession and in his car, first of all, he had bleached his hair and goatee.
I remember that picture.
Yeah. Yeah. He had $15,000 in cash.
Ballin'.
He had 4 cell phones, camping gear, a gun, his brother's ID, multiple credit cards in family members' names, a shovel, and 12 Viagras.
Just in case.
Don't know what he's going to do with them, but 12 Viagra.
Snort them and have boners for a long time.
Yeah. Whatever.
That's gross.
Okay. So,
Danny, he's gross.
It's just gross.
trial starts June of 04. Prosecutor's theory was that Scott had either smothered or strangled Lacey when she was nearly 8 months pregnant with their child. He then went on his fishing trip, but not just his merely fishing trip. He had his dead pregnant wife in the boat with him. Took her to the San Francisco Bay, dumped her. Don't know why. Leave her. It's okay to leave your pregnant wife. You don't have to kill her.
Yeah.
Just leave her. It's fine. Everything will work out.
Yeah, man.
Where's the motive? Like,
He was having too many affairs. And I think
He was caught up. I think it sounds like he was getting caught up.
Yeah, I think he was starting to freak out. Man, this baby's going to tie me down.
Well, also especially because he had mentioned to Amber Fry that, oh, like I'm a widow, like I'm gonna be lonely for the holidays. Like he had to make true on that.
Yeah.
He was running out of time, and Christmas Eve is literally the last possible time it could have been.
So, the jury then deliberates 7 days. That's
Damn.
all it takes. 7 days.
I think that's a long time.
Would have taken me 15 minutes. But they spend 7
Which
days.
is why he would not have been on the jury.
No, he was guilty the moment, But anyways.
That
So
fucking
7
bleached
days
hair.
before they came back with the verdict of Scott Peterson, he sat emotionless at the table.
All I can see is Dean Cain.
I know, huh?
I know. It's just
It
all
is. I
can
can't
see.
really see Scott Peterson. I see Dean Cain. But good old Scott Peterson sitting at the table motionless, as he heard, "We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Scott Lee Peterson, guilty of the crime of first-degree murder of Lacey Denise Peterson and guilty of the crime of second-degree murder of Connor Peterson." Her family loses it, just starts crying. Her friends are in the crowd. Everyone's so happy that SOB is going down for killing his wife and baby.
Dang.
So then the jury comes back for the penalty phase, and they suggest to the judge, he needs to die. He needs to die by lethal injection. So that's his sentence. Scott Peterson, you're sentenced to death by lethal injection.
But it's California, so that was what year? 2007, you said?
2002.
2002. Four.
Yeah, he's going to sit on death row the rest of his life.
Well,
They're never going to kill his ass.
Well, you never know. I think the California average is 17 and a half years.
It's been 15.
2007? Yeah.
So it's coming.
Whatever. Yeah.
Maybe.
I got some follow-up on this. Okay.
Do you? Let's hear the follow-up.
Well, no, I got to finish this here first.
Okay.
This is just something that I saw a magazine printed out. Okay, but funny thing, they convicted him with no forensics. The only forensic evidence they ever found was a single hair that was thought to be Lacey's that was in a pair of pliers on the boat. Scott had scrubbed his whole house down. When the police entered, they said it smelled of bleach. He had also cleaned the boat. You know, he's got to get rid of all that evidence. Currently, to this day, Scott Peterson still sitting in San Quentin on death row for the murder of his wife and unborn child. Oop, that's me. Sorry, Charlie. But fun fact is, I did see there was this article that came out in a magazine forever ago, you know, back in the day.
When people still had
When
magazines.
people still read magazines and stuff. And there's a cute picture of me on my phone. And it said, it was In Touch magazine, and it said that, you know, this woman was, you know, doing an interview of the murder of Scott hanging out in prison, it seems what he's doing. And it pretty much says that he's living the life in prison. You know, that he tells his dad, you know, that he wants to have kids someday and is craving a normal life. You know, they have a record of his purchase order from prison. You know, stuff he orders from commissary. And he's got some good old stuff on here, you know, like he's got some deep sea nasal spray and some chili garlic sauce, chopped onions, sugar-free honey.
That's available through commissary?
Yeah, why the hell do they give access?
No,
Why is it
and
not
there's-
like ramen noodles and hot dogs?
Or freaking
smoked
porridge.
oysters.
Smoked
He even
oysters.
paid
Sounds
$17 to have an extension cord. Yeah.
For what?
I guess for his TV and microwave and
Hopefully
VCR.
he'll
so you
fucking
get-
hang himself.
You know,
You get
no.
TVs too.
Yeah.
How does a San Quentin death row inmate get an extension cord?
No. And he's got smoked scallops on here, white rice, corn, non-fat milk, vitamin substance. But the lady who interviewed him, sorry I don't know her name, but anyways, Nancy Mullen is her name actually.
There you go.
She says that when she interviewed him, he was out playing basketball. No shirt on, just his shorts, and looking fine and fit. Now, I thought when you were on death row, you were in
23 hours in a cell.
Yeah. No, they were saying he was out of his cell 5-6 hours a day, talking to other inmates, you know, hanging out, laughing and everything. So for a man killing his wife and kid,
It's got it pretty good.
yeah, you know.
He doesn't
Yeah.
have to worry.
And
You
he
know,
gets 3
about
square
where he's
plus
getting
smoked
fed.
oysters.
3 hots in a pot, 3 hots in a pot, 3 hots in a cup. But he doesn't even have that. He's got oysters and
An extension cord.
scallops and
I wonder what he
Extension
watches
cords.
watches on TV.
yeah.
Real Housewives.
Oh, but it was mentioned that shortly after Lacey disappeared, he added 2 pornographic channels to his cable, and they said, "What man would ever do that, thinking his wife may come home?" You know, you're not going to, oh, hey, my
Yeah,
wife
but
is
you could
missing.
always call and get it taken off the
No,
bill if she
but when
comes
that
home.
bill comes, she's going to be, dude, why do you have porno on our...
I will fight that by saying she's gonna, like, if she's been gone a while, like, she's take it
Honey,
easy for
I
like at
missed
least
you.
a month.
No.
Like, I'm gonna take care of this bill. Like, you won't
He
need to, like,
knew she wasn't coming home, and it wasn't going to matter.
Don't make excuses for him.
Yeah.
I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just simply showing
being too
you
logical.
how.
Okay, anyways, your wife is missing a month and you order pornographic channels. Why do you need 2? First of all, why do
A
you
man
need 2?
has
Why
needs.
do you need 2
Maybe he
different
didn't like
channels?
the first one. You don't know that he didn't order them at a separate time. You know, I'm just saying. You know, it's Let's be real here, guys. He killed the shit out of her, but
OJ style.
Not denying
yeah,
that.
I don't know. Yeah, it was bad. Oh, is that it?
It's pretty
Yeah.
shocking
Cool.
how he's treated in prison, though.
Yeah,
I
mean,
don't get that shit.
yeah. I think you're in prison for killing someone. You're on death row. You sit in a cell. You don't have a window. You don't have freedom. You don't have commissary. You know.
You find that fucking dog. Sorry.
Where's the consequence?
Yeah, he'll live forever because they're not going to kill his ass.
Eventually, they have to.
Eventually, but what, in 2072,
Until they say California, no more death penalty.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And then he's like, oh, sweet.
Sweet, I'm just going to live in this cell for the rest of my life and eat oysters and smoked salmon and salami.
Moved around so much.
Thanks for that, Mama Shy. That was a wonderful story about a horrible person. Scott Peterson sucked, and you did a killer job saying that. Everybody give her a round of applause because I know you guys voted for her fan favorite.
Fan favorite.
That's right. This
Mama
next story,
Shy.
though. This next story. Oh, that's right. A little late for Mama Shy. This next story, though, this is one that was also voted for by the fans. What did they refer to this guy as?
Bloody dickless Winnie the Pooh.
Right, bloody dickless Winnie the Pooh. Got it. That's what this story is all about. I believe the story is called Mark Listens to Jesus.
My favorite part about Mark Listens to Jesus is I believe Officer John refers to him as Mike. So, it's all about consistency here at Serial Chillers.
That's the point. That's the whole point. Anyway, enjoy a story about Mike and his bloody dickless Winnie the Pooh-esque things.
Tell me this story.
Okay. So, if you remember my voice, because besides my first name is all you've heard, and I've seen that you have other Johns on the podcast, I am a law enforcement officer, so I get to kind of see more than the public. I'm just going to start from the beginning. I'm not going to Tarantino it or anything like that. I'm just going to tell everything that was done in the investigation leading up until my part, and I don't know how it finished because it was transferred over to a different department. So, all right. So, over here in our town, we're getting an Amazon building. They're going to be doing like shipments and all that other stuff from it. And so it's getting built, and they already have security out there because they have like other businesses out there. I can't remember the other one that's going in there with them. I want to say it's other distribution hubs and all that other stuff.
I think an Ulta is going in out
yeah,
there.
They're going in out there, and I want to say like there was talks of something with like Google or something like that too, which would be cool, especially if we get Google Fiber.
Yes.
But this in particular, there was someone. His name was I won't say his last name. His first name was Mike. It's so generic, it's fine.
Perfect.
And plus the story's pretty unique. They're gonna know who I'm talking about if anyone has any idea what it is. So Mike is a college student in Fresno State, and he works security for some extra money at this Amazon building. Mike, unbeknownst to everyone at his job site, has been diagnosed with a mental disorder. Don't know exactly what it is or if it was given a specific diagnosis, but he's definitely got one. He gets on their radios and he tells the crew, says, "Hey, is Mike bugging anyone else? Because I'll take care of him for you guys if you like." And everyone's like, "What the fuck you talking about, Mike? Go back to work." I didn't think anything of it. 30 minutes go by and said, "Hey, everyone, I got to take off. Jesus just told me to cut my penis off." So that's how we're starting this story.
Why wouldn't he?
Right.
Because
That's full of sin. Get rid of it.
that's the word. That
Right.
was the 11th commandment, the one they don't talk about as much.
That's the
one
one
where you
Moses
have to-
refused to bring down from the mountain.
He left that up on the
So I'm trying to, should I tell like everything that happened?
You tell whatever you want, man.
The whole dick and balls. Let's go.
Like I said, I don't know if I want to do it like Tarantino or if I want to go like what he actually did, like, or like the gap in time. I'm just doing the gap in time.
All
It
right.
just works. So he took off. No one knows where he went. No one sees him as far as anyone knows from the job site or know what he's doing until about 2 hours later or so, when he parks his vehicle in the median of the 41 and 180 freeways where they intersect, and he runs out into traffic in front of a vehicle that's going approximately 70 to 75 miles per hour with 3 occupants. They hit him, and the 3 of them are left in critical condition. Like the people that are inside, and he's gone, of course. You get hit by a car.
Eviscerated.
So he loses some body parts, as what happens when you get hit by a vehicle like that fast. And so they recovered all his parts. It's a CHP thing, since they go out there the freeway. They pick up all his parts and they bring him to the coroner's office. Coroner's taking a look at him, and again, like I said, for you to lose a few appendages is totally not natural when you get, as far as natural as getting hit by a car is.
Right.
So they're checking him out, and they notice that he's like a Ken doll. He doesn't have a dick, right? So they take a look at him. They're like, yeah, this isn't as a result of being from an impact, because it happens in impacts. The coroner I spoke to said so, but this was way too clean a cut. They're like, no, this guy had no dick when he got hit by this car.
Oh my God.
Okay, so the investigation begins. They're trying to find out what this dude's deal is. He's not originally from Fresno. He's from out of state, and he comes into town. He came into town to go to school. No one knows where he lives because he's not listed anywhere. Fresno State, he even put his home address out of town, I believe. Or no, it was another address that he had moved from. He'd recently moved into his new spot, and no one knew where it was. So no one could find anything out.
Wow.
3 days later, the coroner's office, or I don't remember which department got the call, but they had came and said, hey, our roommate cut off his dick and he left it in his room. Can someone come and get it?
Oh my!
And then further talking with him, I guess they had seen him. I'm trying not to ruin like the whole like crescendo and the build up or whatever, but I mean, you already know what's going to happen. I mean, like, the guy he cut his own dick off.
Yeah.
So I mean, however we get there is just I'm just trying to think if I could just do like the flow of how to do this. I've told the story so many times, but in so many different variations. So essentially, what happened? Just to cut to the quick. I get a call from the coroner, says that they need assistance to go pick up a body part from the house, and all this stuff that I've told you before. I had no idea what it is. I just see. In the call that says, hey, you need to go to this place and go pick up a body part. I'm like, what the fuck?
A body part.
Right. And so mine is just going crazy. I'm like, what the fuck body part could this be?
What am I about to goddamn walk into?
And it said an appendage. And so you don't really know. It could be an arm. It could be a finger.
Right.
It could be a hand. It could be a foot. It could be a dick. When I first read it, I'm like, that's a dick. For whatever reason, I was like, that is a fucking dick. And so we go, and the coroner meets up with me. He's like, hey, man, he's got a big smile on his face. I'm like, it's a dick. And he's like, it's a dick. And so he tells me that whole story. He says, yeah, what I've told you guys so far. He says, and apparently what had happened was he went home from working security, goes into his house. So alongside in my head, I'm picturing what we did. We go inside the house and we open up his room. We find it. First thing you see is on the bed, there's a pool of blood. Probably less than what I'd assume there'd be for someone cutting off their dick, but I mean a pool of blood nonetheless. There's a pile of pubes and a buzzer, like hair buzzers on the ground, so at least he was clean about it. I thought that was kind of funny.
You don't want to get an infection.
Right. I mean,
you don't want to leave any hair in the wound.
Yeah, right. And there was 3 kitchen knives and a pair of scissors.
Oh, he had to go at it.
And all of them were bloody. And on the bed was a Bible that was open, and there was just nonsense gibberish written in them, just pages, just nonsense and all that other stuff. And there on his nightstand, in one complete package, not in pieces or whatever, dick, balls, and scrotum. And so when the coroner picked him up, he picked it up and it was all in one piece, put it right in the bag. So what he had told me, what his roommates had saw was he went inside and, without any kind of painkillers or anything like that, just went straight from went home, went to the kitchen to grab the knives and the scissors. They didn't know that's what he did, but he went to the kitchen, went into his room, closed it, and started working on it. Just doing it right. Screaming and pain and stuff. Roommates, he's got a lock on his door, knock and say, hey, is everything okay in there? He's like, yeah, I'm cool. Yeah. And I guess they believed him. And so continued on until he finished the job, and then I don't know if it was something of regret or just how do you top, that shit. So he walked out of his room, and before you can leave the house, you have to walk through kind of like, or right near like the living area. And this dude walking out with just a t-shirt on, no pants, like a fucking bloody dickless Winnie the Pooh. And his whole fucking, all his roommates see this shit.
It's a little redundant,
right? And he goes out into his car and parks on the freeway, and runs in front of vehicles and kills himself and hurts 3 other people. So
fuck him for that part of it.
Sure. I mean, there's a huge mental health thing, like problem in our town, like that a lot of people don't see. And so when I see this whole thing, like, of course it's super fucked up. And I mean, I'm so young in my career as it is. And then I see something like that. I'm like, fuck, there's no topping this. This is fucking crazy. Like, I saw a dick on a nightstand that wasn't attached to a human being. It's like, and it was,
it was like not made of silicone.
No, and then everyone has to ask. Everyone's like, "Oh, what did it look like?" And I'm like, "I mean, I walked out of there a little taller, if that's what you mean."
Yeah.
I wasn't impressed. But
that's it.
Now I see why he did it.
Yeah. So I thought that was going to be the end of it, because it's, I mean, as bizarre as it is or whatever, everything that was there just kind of screamed mental health. Like,
right, like a little paranoid, delusional.
We had statements from the sister that she had said, "Oh no, he wouldn't have ever done anything like this before." So did he have a mental? Yeah, but he wasn't taking his meds and stuff. I'm like, okay. You go inside the room, there's just crazy gibberish drawings
Bibles
and stuff, right? And so everything's kind of lining up, and it just like, yeah, I got what's going on. Well, seeing as that. When he finally ceased to live, was on the freeway, it was transferred over to CHP.
Mm-hmm.
So I am out with my buddy at full disclosure. We were playing Pokemon Go.
Nice.
And we were at the park, and there's like this fucking birthday party, just because it makes the story funnier.
Right.
There's kids running around. And so we're going, and we're doing like a gym battle or whatever. And this was a little while ago, but I'm only telling that story because it's funny, because the CHP officer calls me and he wants to talk about this. So I'm talking about a fucking dismembered dick, and there's kids running around and shit like this. I'm talking about it's just kind of funny. That's the only reason why I was so self-deprecating. Yeah, I played Pokemon Go a lot longer than everyone else did.
It's cool. I play too.
Okay, so I'm not anyway. But the hilarious thing about this guy is that he wanted to make like a mountain out of a molehill. He was like, "No, man, I got this whole theory that like it was roommates. So, man, it took him 3 days to say something. You don't think that's weird?" I'm like, people are fucking stupid. I don't know how long you've been doing this job, but there's just people that like don't use their freaking head, and like common sense is just fucking lacking. And that's what I kind of took this as. I'm like, yeah, you saw him running out, but I mean, I don't know if he was focusing to see if he had a dick. Like, they just knew his bloody bare ass and ran outside. I mean, who knows, whatever. But he was like trying to make it sound like, oh, I think they're doing ritualistic cult stuff in there. I'm like, come on, man.
It's the satanic panic.
Right. And so he's
it's an inside job, man.
And so he's like really trying to drum it up and like do this investigation. He's like, yeah, my sergeant said I can have lead on this investigation. I'm like, well, goddamn, Columbo. Like, this, like, fucking calm your tits. Like, this, like, it's not as deep as you think it is. Like, honestly, this guy had, like, because CHP just doesn't handle stuff like that. Like, crazy people, like, they're AAA with a gun. Yeah. So, I mean,
dang.
Shots fired.
So now you know what officers in town think of the CHP officers.
Nah, that's just, I have friends that are CHP, and we all say it, just like how military gets each other.
And we talk slower when we talk to them.
But yeah, he was really trying to drum it up, and he was trying to make it something that it wasn't. And so I just thought that was kind of comical.
I love the like satanic panic of it. Like, dude, I'm pretty sure. I think I got this,
especially
man.
since he was like trying to convince me. He was like, "Man, think about it." I was like, "Oh fuck, man!" Like now you're gonna tell him he's like the chemtrails made him do it. I was like, "Dude, Jesus Christ!" Like this weird, like it was because he finally got to sink his teeth in something that was super interesting and just super bizarre.
Why
and
not glom onto that?
Yeah, I mean, like, fuck. Yeah. Like I just thought that was hilarious. But yeah, exactly how I said. I think that it was just someone that unfortunately had a chemical imbalance going on and probably not enough resources around him to take care of that. Yep. Being a college student and away from home and all that other shit.
And just devout Christian. Jesus told him to do it.
Yeah.
So if you're struggling out there, reach out. People do want to help you. It's true.
All jokes
but when
aside,
you reach out, don't reach for knives or scissors.
Yes. All jokes aside, I mean, if you're feeling like that, I mean, try and look for a support system, whether it's friends or family or the suicide hotline. I don't remember the number. Just listen to that Logic song. I think he says it in that.
Yep, he does.
Or Google.
Holy shit, that was traumatizing. Well, I heard it live, and I heard it again there, and I don't want to hear it again. So thank you, John, for telling it. And anybody who wants to listen to it multiple times may do that. But from here on,
that rewind button a little bit on your podcast player.
Yeah, I'm swearing off that story.
Oh, come on. One more time. Once more around the block.
Hit the reverse button. No. So we're going to move on. We don't need to do much introduction for this guy because he's been on the show more times than I have. Yeah. This is early Bigfoot, everybody. He's going to tell us the story of Steven Stainer. He's one of our favorites. He's one of your favorites. Let's do this.
Do it.
All right, welcome back to the Serial Chillers podcast. If you're here, you're not dead, and I like that. So I don't want to take too much time. I'm going to jump right into Casey's story here. Go for it, man. Let's hear what you got.
All right, so I'm going to tell the story of Steven Stainer. Steven Stainer was born April 18th, 1965 in Merced, California. Local for us. He was born to Delbert and Kay Stainer.
I really like that name.
Delbert's pretty good.
If only I had a son. A beautiful, articulate son.
Hey, you don't say that.
Put that evil on me.
He was the third of 5 children. He had an older brother, and I believe he had 3 older sisters. I could be wrong on that.
Delbert was busy.
Hey, getting it in. So while walking home from school on December 4th, 1972, at the age of 7, Stainer was approached by Irvin Murphy. So I couldn't find any like history about it, but people that knew Murphy said that he was like a simpleton. He was like Simple Jack.
Old Irv Murph.
Yeah. He didn't, from what I read, he didn't have like any, like, not Down syndrome or anything. Like, he was just
he's a little slow.
Yeah, he was a little bit slow. So Murphy was handing out Bible tracts to boys who were walking in the neighborhood that day via instructions by Kenneth Parnell. So this man Kenneth Parnell said, "Hey, help me hand out Bible tracts." All right, sounds good, cool.
Isn't Kenneth Parnell the name of the page on 30 Rock?
Is it?
I think so. Sorry.
Dang. I didn't even think about that. So the two men had met each other while they were working in Yosemite National Park. And that's kind of where they associated.
Irv Murph.
Yeah, Irv Murph and Kenneth Parnell.
All right.
So Irvin approached Stainer and asked if his mother would be interested in donating to his church. Stainer made one mistake, and he said,
Parcell. Sorry.
Oh. So Stainer made the mistake of saying yes. And
learn your lesson. Don't give money to the church.
Yeah. At that point, Murphy waved down a car that was parked nearby. Car pulls up, and it was driven by Kenneth Parnell. Murphy says, "Oh, this is the pastor of the church. He's going to take you home. We're going to drive to your house and get the donations from your mother."
That's not what's going to happen, is it?
No. Not at all.
Welcome to reality.
So, Parnell drove, and he's a 7-year-old kid at the time, you know what I mean? So
He's pretty naive.
yeah, you're just like, oh, whatever's going on. They pass his street, and he's like, "Hey, you guys passed my street." I'm like, "Oh, don't worry about that. Don't worry. We're going to go to the church first, and then we're going to go to your parents' house."
I don't like this.
Yeah, so Parnell drove all the way to his cabin in Cathy's Valley. After that day, Stephen Stainer wouldn't be heard from again by his parents or anybody that knew him for 7 years. 7 years he's missing. His parents are putting up flyers, handing out flyers to, neighboring communities. "Have you seen this kid? Have you seen this kid? Have you seen this kid?"
He was on milk cartons for sure.
Definitely. So the first night that he was taken, Parnell molested him, and 2 weeks later he began raping him. 7-year-old kid getting raped and molested. He's crying to go home. So he's like, "I just want to go home. Just take me home. Just take me home." Parnell says, "Your parents signed legal guardianship over to me. They don't want you anymore. You can start calling me Dad." So, time goes on. Parnell gives Stainer a new name. He calls him Dennis Gregory Parnell. Gregory was his true middle name.
Kept it true. DGP.
He also portrayed himself as the boy's father and moved Stainer around California. While he was moving him around California, he registered him at several schools and used his actual birth date for the registration.
Not even like 1 day different. Just
Nope.
like, they won't know the difference in 1 day.
Let's just keep it that way. He's Dennis now anyway. So he's moving around and he's going to schools. Apparently, these schools had received flyers from the parents that this kid was missing, but nobody ever recognized it. Just let it go.
Not even just like, hey, I saw this flyer. Why don't just like every new registrant, let's just cross-reference birth dates. Like it's here.
Yeah.
We might as well, right?
I mean, it looks exactly like that guy, but
rough.
That's Dennis. That's not Steven.
Hey, he says his name's Dennis. You hear him?
Yeah. So basically, what
Every time he says that, though, he shakes his head.
Basically, Parnell brainwashed him, starting off by saying your parents didn't want you anymore.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, I'm your parent now. He also gave him a lot of freedom. So from a very young age, they say probably at the age of 9, he started drinking and smoking marijuana and just getting involved in drugs. What 9-year-old doesn't?
Right.
He also let him go, like whenever he wanted to.
He wasn't like a prisoner.
Right. So the
physically,
brainwashing was
he was
really
psychologically a
yeah,
prisoner.
Definitely.
Wow.
So in 1974, Stainer was 9 at this point. A woman named Barbara Mathias moved in with Parnell and Stainer. He's 9 at the time. She indulged in sexual acts with both of them.
Parnell and the 9-year-old DGP.
So it always blows my mind. Like, there's not only one sick person in this world, but that sick person is able to find another sick person.
And they're like best buds. Hey,
yeah.
I got this 9-year-old. Do you want to come fuck it?
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah.
God.
I'll take it.
That's like what?
God damn.
How much different could the conversation really have been, though?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right?
So eventually, later on, when Barbara is interviewed, she claims that she didn't know that he was kidnapped. She didn't say, I didn't have sex with him. I just didn't know he was kidnapped.
I would have never fucked a 9-year-old that was kidnapped.
Yeah.
Just one that's tied up and owned.
That's just ridiculous.
Barbara's a bitch.
So in 1975, Barbara was instructed by Parnell to lure another boy into a car. This boy was in a group with Stainer, the Santa Rosa Boys Club. They were in a group together. This did not pan out. The boy did not take the bait.
Smart.
So
smart.
Got away.
So originally, I thought Irv Griff was going to be the dude, Irv Murph.
Yeah.
And then it's Kenneth Parnell, really, who's the mastermind behind it all, because he dumped Irv Murph and now he's got Barbara.
Yeah. Well, actually, Irv lived with them for a little while, and Stainer, after he escaped, spoiler alert, he actually said he was always thankful for Uncle Murph's kindness towards him. So
that
Uncle
still
Murph
sounds like a little bit of Stockholm syndrome.
That's real too. So on multiple occasions, Parnell tried to use Stainer to lure friends into his car and try to kidnap people.
So he was using the kid as someone to both have sex with and as bait to lure other children in to have sex with.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Perfect.
None of these attempts ever panned out.
Perfect. Thank God.
So after a while, Parnell decided, you know what? Stainer's not a good accomplice. He's not very good at kidnapping. He's good at being kidnapped.
Only the kidnappee.
Yes. So he, on February 14th of 1980, Parnell enlisted the help of Stainer's teenage friend, Randall Sean Poorman. And they forcefully kidnapped 5-year-old Timothy White. So Timothy White was flagged down by Randall Sean Poorman, who said he had a flat tire. Can you hold the valve to the tire while I, try to air it back up? 5-year-old Timothy White, who was apparently walking home by himself for whatever reason.
Where does a 5-year-old go to help somebody with a broken down vehicle?
Well, Timothy did not fall for it, and he took off running.
Good, Timothy.
So Timothy's testimony, he says that he started running, and a few steps into his run, Poorman grabbed him by the backpack and pulled him back into the car.
Fuck.
So Poorman pulls him into the car and drugs him with juice and sleeping pills.
Yes. I love that cocktail, though.
It's a party now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to say, I've had like 3 of those.
So Stainer is 14 at this time and going through puberty. The reason Parnell wants a new person is because they're younger. I don't want this man with hair on his balls. I want that smooth Dave Chappelle ball sack.
Oh, you mean these balls?
So Parnell brings Timothy home, and Stainer sees Timothy, and he realizes what's going to happen to him is the same thing that happened to himself. And he decides, I'm going to escape. I'm going to take this boy. I'm going to get him out of here. He said that he saw the distress of the child, and he related with the distress, and so
it snapped him out of it.
Yeah.
He was reverted back to the day that he was brought there.
Right.
Wow.
So at this time, they were living in a cabin that Parnell owned in Ukiah, California, about 120 miles north of San Francisco. This cabin did not have electricity.
Off the grid.
And it didn't have running water. It was a one bedroom.
I bet it smelled wonderful.
Probably like boy jizz.
Oh. Boy jizz and heavy shits.
Yes. But anyway, as I had said earlier, Stainer was given a lot of freedom, right?
Yeah.
Parnell had jobs. He held jobs down, and so he would go to his job, and leave the kids alone by themselves.
Ample time to escape.
Right.
If the brainwashing is snapped.
Right. And so at the age of 14, he takes Timothy White, who's 5 at the time, on a rainy night, in the middle of the night, while Parnell's at his night job. They hitchhike 40 miles to the Ukiah police station.
Wow.
He put White on his back and just hitched rides until he could get all the way to the police station.
So you're telling me the first ride they picked up and said, "We are abducted children.
Right.
We need a ride." Well, I could take you as far as 5 miles up the road. You're on your own from there, kid.
I'm actually headed back the other way from where you came from, but that's okay. I don't mind taking you. You guys look lost.
Yeah.
Wow.
So from the woods of Ukiah, he hitchhikes 40 miles to a police station.
Great, you say.
The Stockholm syndrome is really prevalent in this case, because what he does is he attempts to release Timothy. He tells him, go into the police station, tell him who you are, and he wants to stay behind.
He wants to go back.
Well, that's never said, but just he doesn't
didn't
want
want
to
go
turn himself in. Right.
Yeah.
Luckily, 2 police officers saw both of them and brought them both in.
Oh, man.
So
he wanted to go live with Uncle Murph.
He probably did. He's a simpleton. I mean, he lets me do what I want to do. So Stainer is in the police station, and they ask him to write down his testimony. Right. So the first line of his testimony is, "I know my first name is Stephen, and I'm pretty sure my last name is Steiner. Steiner. His last name is St.
A-Y?
Yes, I believe A-Y.
Yeah. Damn, that's pretty close for being like a young kid who was
Right, like
brainwashed
7
for
years
7
old.
years.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's very formative years, you know what I
Right,
mean? Like,
very. Right.
you don't really remember that much before you were...
Especially if somebody's telling you that like didn't exist, or like those
Right.
don't
Oh, they don't
remember
want you.
those years.
Yeah, they don't want you anymore.
Yeah.
Like, they gave you...
Wow.
They gave you over. So he says, I know my first name is Steven, and I'm pretty sure my last name is Steiner. If I have a middle name, I don't know it. That entire time, he was using his real middle name as Dennis Gregory Parnell.
Oh, what a trickster.
So Stainer went on and was described as his family said that he was a survivor. He never showed, emotion towards it, anything like that. But his wife later would say like he was tormented by it, and he never had an out for it.
How could you not be? And like, how could somebody understand that?
Yeah, right.
Even if you go into a doctor's office, a professional who's done it for 30 years.
Somebody said, I forgot who it was, whether it was I think it was a family member, but they said, I think it was his sister. They said that when he left, he was Steven, but when he came home, he was still Dennis. So,
Ugh.
yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'll wait till the end, but I do have a question.
Okay. So in the same written testimony, he also said, I already said that part. If I have a middle name, I don't know it. I'm 14 years old. I don't know my true birth date, but I use the 18th of April, 1965, which was his true birth date.
Dang.
So Stainer went on, and he got married. He had 2 children, and he went on to work with other child abduction groups, and he spoke to people and children about stranger danger.
Dang. Good guy.
He also granted interviews about his kidnapping, so he was open about it.
Yeah.
He also consulted a miniseries TV show called I Know My First Name is Steven. He said he didn't like the way they portrayed his interaction with his parents. They made him look like a troubled 7-year-old kid, but he really wasn't,
Okay.
I mean, you're a 7-year-old at that time.
Right.
How troubled can you be? So in 1989, Stainer was heading home from work on a rainy afternoon when his motorcycle collided with a car that pulled into traffic from a side road. He was working at Pizza Hut at the time. He sustained fatal head injuries, and died in the Merced County Medical Center at the age of 24.
God damn it, anyway.
So after he made his escape, he only got to live for 10 more years.
And dies in a motorcycle accident.
Yeah, head-on collision with a car that just pulled out in front of him.
Motherfucker.
As far as his kidnapper goes, Kenneth Parnell, he served 5 years of a 7-year sentence. He was never charged with sexual abuse because the prosecutors thought that these charges would give the victims the stigma of being damaged goods. Yeah, you know what? Let's not.
Don't charge him because they might make fun of him at high school.
Yeah, that's not. No, we don't need to.
That's the worst shit I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's pretty awful.
So in 2004, Parnell was arrested at the age of 71 for attempting to bribe a nurse into bringing him a young boy.
See, I was just going to say, like, this guy did 5 years of a 7. He didn't even have to do as much time as Steven did.
Yeah.
And after 5 years, he's not going to be like, well, I learned my lesson. He's going to be like, fuck yeah, 5 years was worth that shit. I got to bang that kid for 7.
Yeah, and I mean, he's 71 at this time. Like, can you even get it up at 71?
Apparently.
Like,
let me slap it limp across you. I like it that way.
So he attempted to bribe a nurse into bringing him a young boy. He said, I'll give you $100 up front and $400 when the boy's here.
An entire $500 for kidnapping?
It's so good, man. How can you beat that deal?
Oh my god.
The
It
nurse
really is a bargain.
the nurse immediately went to the police, knowing about Parnell's background.
Yeah.
And they set up a
Oh
sting.
well, good for her.
Yeah, they set up a sting operation.
All right, get him to try to buy a kid. Come on.
One thing that Parnell did tell the nurse was make sure they have a clean rectum. Insinuating he was about to get that for show. So the nurse notified police. Police set up the sting. Parnell gave her the $100, and when she was supposed to deliver the boy, the police went and arrested him.
Dang, she kept that hundy. You know it.
Yeah. Parnell claimed that he wanted a family. That's why he wanted to buy a young child. He wanted a family.
The clean rectum is just because, I'd rather start with a clean slate. If, I don't want to have to, start with a dirty one. You got to detail it when you get it.
You can bleach it if you want.
The way I see it, they washed my car when they delivered that from the dealership.
So you better deliver this $500 boy with a clean rectum. I feel like if you're paying $500 for a boy, you can't be expecting top shelf boy.
I need a clean rectum.
Yeah, you'd be lucky to get one with a rectum.
Make sure he wipes front to back, not back to front.
Rectum damn near killed him.
So in 2000, Parnell was convicted of attempted kidnapping and attempted child molestation, and he died while incarcerated in 2008 at the age of 76.
Good riddance.
And on a side note,
this is a good side note.
You like the side note?
Yeah.
Steven Stainer's brother, Kerry, became known as the Yosemite Killer.
Yep, that was going to be my question. Isn't he related to Kerry Stainer?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Yep. So that'll be a future episode, Kerry Stainer.
I have some family who lived in that area at that time and grew up in that area and stuff, and went to school with them and stuff.
Dude,
that's really rad.
That's rough, man. And
yeah,
I don't want to take away from a future episode, but Kerry did say, and I think it's kind of egotistical, but he said that it wasn't the kidnap of his brother that spurned these emotions on. He was the older brother, and he said he had thought about killing women since he was 7 years old.
That piece of shit getting kidnapped had nothing to do with me. I was going to kill anyway.
Yeah, he was kidnapped at 7. Well, you know what? I was thinking about killing people at 7.
So,
Yeah.
Classic.
I'm glad they took him,
Oh my God.
I got way more attention.
I got better things
Christmas
to do
was
anyway.
a lot easier, Mom wasn't as stressed.
Oh my gosh. As always, thank you, Bigfoot, for your contribution to the show. Everybody remember, BIGGFOOT Designs. Go find him. This guy's making seriously cool rings. Have you seen some of the new rings he's making, Greg?
Yeah, he's doing all kinds of cool stuff. He's got some glow in the dark stuff that I really like. There's a couple. I am not a ring wearer, not a jewelry guy, but there's a couple that I'm like, man, if I did, I kind of want that one.
He uses some really rad, like unorthodox materials to make them, but we're not here to sell you guys rings.
But for $19.95, you can own. Actually, I don't know what his pricing is like.
Yeah, don't undersell him, man. So we've got one more story. It's a short one. It's another one that we got a request. It might have been a biased request, but we like this guy, so we want to get his story in there and get him heard again. So, Greg,
we really like this guy.
I was gonna say, would you like to introduce this guy? You guys seem very close. So,
Getty. Oh, this guy he's great. What do they call him? Number one super fan.
Getty, the number one super fan.
Yeah.
Hey.
Thanks for being who you are, Getty.
Appreciate you.
Really do.
Anything creepy. Goes Greg. Jesse. Sick idea for a show. So I was talking with Jesse, and as he remembers, I don't know about co-host Greg, but the Jasmine Fior case. They found her body, initially unidentified, in a suitcase in Buena Park, California, down the street from my house. It blew my mind. I didn't know anything happened like that in my small little area, just outside of LA, blah, blah, blah. But first we heard there was a suitcase with a body found in it in the dumpster, and we're like, what the fuck? And then it turns out all her teeth and her fingertips were removed to, not be able to identify them. We were like, what the fuck is going on around here? Secretly hoping for a serial killer. But as it turned out, it was this Ryan Jenkins dude who was on this VH1 show, Total Loser, had killed her, dumped her there, went to Canada, found out that it was on the run, and killed himself in a Canadian motel. But this shit shook me up as a kid. Well, I was in high school. But just fucking insane. Don't think it's big enough for a full-on, episode. It's not a heavy hitter. But that's just like a quick little run-through, let people know, because that shit is insane. So, yeah, if this voicemail drags on, I fucking hate voicemails. I only leave them for my mata. But, yeah, I love your guys' show. Hail Satan.
Hail Satan to you, Getty.
Yeah, hail Satan. Also, leave your mother more voicemails. She would appreciate that.
She would. So, like we said, Getty is always kind of corresponding with us, and we do enjoy those correspondence. So we wanted to play a couple more Getty voicemails. So get ready, Getty. These are for you.
Gems.
Yeah. So right after I got the Jasmine Fiore one, Getty left me a voicemail, and it is my favorite Getty voicemail that I've got. I believe it's only 12 seconds long, but let's check it out.
Hey, Carson, am I on? Hey, quiet. I'm calling to tell you that Joe Dirt's parents ain't damn staring at his father right now.
Yeah. See what I mean?
I can appreciate it.
Yeah, see what I mean? So we had a 1-year anniversary just probably a little less than a month ago. And Getty called to wish us happy birthday.
Happy birthday, my guys. I'm proud of you. Keep kicking her ass.
Getty, you warm our heart.
You really do.
You really do. And let's see, the last one I believe I have for Getty is Greg talked about if he could travel through time, winning the lottery. And what was your exact...
No, I said lottery winners are time travelers because it's a trap. That's how they get them. That's how you can tell who's a time traveler is people go back in time and win the lotto. That's the only way you could possibly do it. The odds are just astronomical. So Getty actually went into a little more detail, which, I mean, he's not wrong.
Greg, I totally agree with the lottery time travelers deal. And it's not just the ones where they pick their own numbers. You could figure out exactly when the ticket was bought, where the ticket was bought. Even if you don't know the exact time, you just go and you buy like fucking, I don't know, 20 tickets around that time, and boom, there's your fucking numbers. So let's get these motherfuckers. Am I right? Bye.
Bye.
You are right. We need to form some sort of task force similar to the Central Indiana Multi-Agency Task Force.
Yes. Multi-agency investigative team.
That's what it was.
It's
Central Indiana Multi-Agency Investigative Team.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a mouthful.
So thanks for the voicemails, Getty. Thanks for giving us some laughs, like in just the middle of a work day. Sometimes it's enjoyable, and we thank you for that. So from some Getty voicemails, we jump into some other voicemails we've got from people. Let's see some of our other fans. You guys may have seen them on Instagram. We have let's see. First one is from Nicole.
Corpse fucking. That was the creepiest thing I could think of. But hi, this is Nicole, and I just wanted to let you guys know you're putting on a really awesome podcast, and I love it. It's creepy and it's fucked up, and it's like all the scary movies that I love, but better because it's real life. So thank you for giving me a murdercation. Keep killing it.
That's nice. I'm glad people appreciate what we do.
And Greg and I also really appreciated the term murdercation.
And the fact that you started the voicemail with corpse fucking.
I guess I should have prefaced it by saying the voicemail just says, "You've reached the Serial Killers podcast. Say something creepy." So
but they should know that because they should be calling it.
Yeah. She also just didn't randomly yell corpse fucking for no reason.
I think she might have.
So from Nicole, we move to her friend and part of the Serial Killers pod club they started together. That's crazy to me, but that's awesome. Thank you, guys. This is Natalie from Utah.
Just a shout out to Nicole and the Serial Killers Pod Club. This is Natalie from Utah. It's like a book club, only much more creepy. Keeps our break times at work interesting and makes it hard to eat some days. Just goes to show how awesome the Serial Killers podcast is. We really appreciate all you guys do. You make us laugh, and you guys are awesome. Greg, just hoping Lobster Boy never comes back to life and scurries on to the bunker to claw you to death. Really appreciate all you guys do. This is Natalie, once again from Utah. Shout out to you guys. You guys rock. Take care.
Thanks, Natalie from Utah. Now I'm going to have nightmares again. I fucking hate that shit.
Oh, so thank you, Natalie. It was really great to see Greg cringe. Moving on from Natalie, we have a message from Nick D. So the thing about Nick D that I really liked is he didn't, we put it out there like, who wants to be on the show? Call into the voicemail line, leave a voicemail about, anything, and we'll put you on the show if you're not a complete asshole. And Nick called, and he's such a good friend of Getty's. Well, let me.
How many of you would do this for your friend?
Right. This is a friend right here, Nick. You're our friend too.
Jesse and Greg, this is Nick D calling about the post for people that want to be a guest. Now, as much as I would like to be a guest, I actually kind of want to throw Getty's name in the hat. Getty's been an avid fan. He introduced me to your show, and he's a pretty funny dude who I think could probably talk about some serial killer shit with you guys and make it interesting. It would make me super happy to hear him on an episode. Aside from that, you guys rock. Thank you for all you do. All right, man. Peace.
Nick, of all the nice things people have said to us tonight, this may have been the most heartwarming voicemail of all.
It's friends helping friends. And I mean, like I said, how many of you would do that for your friend? How many of you have called a show that your friend likes and tried to get them on that show, aside from some sort of Jerry Springer situation?
Not a lot. But here's the thing. Episode 56 will be myself, co-host Greg, Getty, and Nick D.
There you go. See, dreams do come true.
There is no way this was someone's dream. But, hey, thank you guys for calling the voicemail line. That's really cool. You know, it's there. Anybody who wants to use it, 1-805-666-2513. Thank you, everybody, for calling into that. We also got a few texts from that line as well. And
what are you, Brett?
It's the texts, just a couple shout outs for those people. That came from Carlos Monroy from LA, Courtney, Adrienne, and Carrie Peterson. So thank you guys for texting into the line. You can text the voicemail line. I don't know if you guys knew that. So feel free. We get those texts. Those pop up right on our phone. And we love to talk to you guys while we're supposed to be doing actual work at work. So thank you, everybody, for texting. Also, huge shout out to all the Patreon supporters. Everybody's gotten their name individually shouted out before, but we're going to shout out a few here again. I'm just going to give first names. I'm sorry to everybody who's a repeat first name. You know who you are. You know how much we love you. Thank you, Sarah, Ben, Natalie, Dustin, Shane, Robbie, Jules, Athena, Jesse, Molly, Mandy, Dennis, Rachel, Jamie, Carrie, Anissa, Kristen, Aaron, Kim, Paul, Alexis, Nick, D, Maura, Michelle. Woo! Thank you guys. Kevin, April, Paul, Nadia, Chuck, Getty, Michelle, Laura, JP, Charlie, Greg, and B. Holy shit. Thank you guys.
You couldn't do it in one breath.
I know. I couldn't do it in 6 breaths. Eventually, we won't be able to shout out everybody on one episode like this. We'd like to keep doing the individuals as people give, and we do appreciate that. But we're already getting to a point where I'm overwhelmed. Thank you, guys.
I'm whelmed, but I'm getting overwhelmed.
He's getting over it. So, a couple of the things, we saw that people threw out there that wanted to talk about. We couldn't really turn into a segment, but we wanted to start off with one thing. We are truth tellers here on the Serial Chillers podcast, and we got a lot of comments about people saying one of the favorite things we said was about people having ghosts in their blood and doing cocaine about it.
Yeah, that wasn't ours. We didn't write that,
and we don't know who wrote it. We saw it on Reddit.
It was a meme.
So some of you may have been aware of that and have seen that, and some of you may not have. We wanted to make sure that you didn't think we were funnier than we were, or that we were trying to pinch that joke, because that's definitely not our style.
And if I can find it, I will send it to Jesse and have him post it.
I have it. It's one of my saved links on Reddit.
Perfect.
So we'll post that up for everybody to see. It's genius, and whoever wrote it is the same. So that was one of the things I wanted to get out there.
I feel like a weight's been lifted.
Yeah,
I feel like that was a burden that we were carrying around. People think we're funnier than we actually fucking are.
It was never our intention, but that's just the way it went down. So another thing, that we noticed a lot of people were saying is that they really liked when guests brought stories. Some people went as far to say they didn't like when guests brought stories. Then when less guests started bringing stories, they really missed guests bringing stories. So, Greg and I, it's a lot for the podcast. It's booking, it's recording, it's editing. There's a lot that goes into it when it's not just us. Bringing guests in, adds a whole new element to it, because these people have lives and want to, we're working around their schedules and vice versa for them to come on, and it's not always the easiest, but we'll get some people that want to tell some stories too. We promise. Like, that's what we're looking into. Not that we think the people that are coming on have been incapable of that, and I haven't really been pressing it much lately, to be honest, either. So we'll start getting some guests that want to tell some stories back, and that's for you guys. I appreciate you guys reaching out and letting us know that that was something you really liked, and I want to bring that to you. So we're going to look to bring that back as early as later this season, and definitely into season 3. So yeah, keep sending your ideas in too. That's another great thing. You guys are a wealth of knowledge. I can't even imagine doing this without some of the ideas and some of the information and some of the links I've gotten from you guys. So it's really huge.
I've gotten a few stories sent to me.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny because I'll get them and I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard of that, or no, I haven't heard of that. Tell me all about it. And so they're telling me all about it. I'm asking questions, and eventually they're just like, dude, hey, fucking do your own research. And I'm like, oh right, yeah. That's what I'm doing. Shut up.
That actually reminds me, the reason, we didn't, sometimes we can't book people, and Greg and I will do an episode where it's he and I, and we cover some cool stories. And sending in your ideas is huge, because not only did Getty send that voicemail, he sent that voicemail because I asked him to, after he gave me the idea for what I would be covering for one of those Jesse and Greg episodes.
Yeah, if you have a cool story, you can just Getty it in there.
Yeah.
Just call the voicemail line, tell us the story, and we'll just play it on the show like we just did there.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it. And
feel free to take that and make that a thing in your life too. If you ever just need to record something rather than type it out because it's too long, or do the research on it, you can just call it Gettying it.
Yeah, we'll Getty it. So you guys are the lifeblood, and I think we've gotten to a point now too where, some people have gotten enough involved and they've talked to us enough where, these people are coming on the show now. It's new for us, it's new for them, and we're all gonna have some fun, I think. So it's gonna be really rad. We have one more shout out. Our boy Mike, he doesn't like to do things the traditional way. I believe he said, quote, fuck Patreon, right?
That's right. Yeah. He's got a point. You can just fuck Patreon and Venmo me the dough.
Yeah, that was Mike's quote. So we just want to give a shout out to the real Mikey, real Mr. Mikey. Sorry, he sent us some shirts from his brand. Too rad, man, and the materials so soft.
My wife already snaked one of mine.
Right.
I am down a shirt now. It's cool though. She likes it. She wears it out to class and stuff like that. I wore mine to go play basketball. That's right. I leave the bunker occasionally.
So again, thank you. You guys can find FF Cloth on Mike's Instagram. That's the real Mr. Mikey. Just how it sounds. Mikey. MrMikey. So it's the real Mr. Mikey. Go find him. Check out his clothes. Get some for your own, and don't let your wife steal them. Right?
That's right.
All right. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. That's kind of a wrap on episode 50, I think, Greg.
Boom.
Woo. Is there anything else you can think of you want to get in there before we really start calling it wraps?
The usual. At Hella Greg on all platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook,
beautiful.
Snapchats. Hella Greg, but it's backwards.
Oh, that's right. Good. Luck with that one. What is it backwards again?
What else do I have? Oh, SoundCloud. There's a SoundCloud.
Listen to the SoundCloud. Easy listening.
Yeah, eventually there's going to be more stuff posted on there. And there's stuff I'm working on. I'm working out the logistics on some certain things. Scheduling conflicts with artists. I'm the only artist, so. And yeah, just check it out, man. Check me out. Look what I can do.
There's a few people that wanted one of these, so I'll just give it to them.
Mama, I killed Dean.
Yeah, it's on the soundboard. It's not going anywhere. It's
Can I come see you? Yeah.
Nope, you can't. You can't.
Oh, they said no.
You guys know where to find us by now, but it's all the social medias. It's at Serial Chillers Podcast. Same with the Gmail, except for Twitter, which is just at Chillers Podcast. Fucking thank you guys. 50 episodes, dude.
Yeah.
Holy
50 episodes. It's been a year.
Yeah, it's huge, man. Thank you for everybody who's given to the Patreon. you haven't yet and want to, patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast. There's still merchandise to be had at serialchillerspodcast.threadless.com. What else, man? Episode 50, dude. Let's thank all the guests.
Oh, yeah.
All the
Hit 'em with
guests.
the names.
All the guests that have been on the show. This is mostly in chronological order. It's another just list of names, you guys. But listen, these people are important. They've taken times out of their days and nights, mostly nights. I have to record late in the evening a lot. So these people have eaten away at the time that they'd like to be sleeping to be on the show to help entertain you. So stick around and thank Kim, Austin, Tyree, Joseph, Alex, Bigfoot, Sam, Christy, Aaron, Ariel, John L., Clayton, Dustin, John D., Lindsay, Danny, Cheyenne, Ashley, Joey, Brandon, John V., Jeff V., Robbie, Kyle, Carrie, Jordan, Scotty, JP, Roe, Steven, Casey, Sam, Nate, Caitlin, Larry, Ryan, April, Bobby, Emily, Cameron, Colton, Kendall, Andy, Tiffany, Susanna, Travis, Taylor, and last but not least, hello, Greg.
Sorry for the clip show. Have no fears, we got stories for years.
Perfect.
He's no air